Welcome back. Episode 118 here on the Beef Evo podcast. I'm going to dive in a little bit to confidence. So, we're talking about permission in this series. So, we're going to talk a little bit about confidence, right? Not louder, flashier, but I think it will build off the last episode of being authentic and permission to be authentic. And I think this really will resonate with most of the listeners, the athletes, the women athletes that I have, and the entrepreneurs that make up the core of the BFABO community and the listeners here. And then it leaves some space, some breathing space in here for you, right? And how we have that confidence. So as we've been talking about in this permission episodes, we've touched on a lot of areas for growth, personal, professional, and how to slow down so we can grow deeper and more intentional, and how to reconnect with who we are and being proud of who we are. So let's talk a little bit about confidence, because we talk a lot about self-belief here. I'm all about self-belief. And I really want to encourage you to get back to believing in yourself, get back to reconnecting with that confidence. And maybe it's not always the kind of confidence that you're used to hearing about. Maybe um, I can give you a different take on confidence, because real confidence doesn't come from being louder or more positive or polished or more visible. I do believe that confidence really comes when you just be, when you're not overperforming, when you're not grabbing the spotlight, when you're not being louder or trying to go with the noise, but when you're just there, that quiet confidence that you have. And I do believe there's a difference between conceit and confidence. I believe we need confidence. I believe we had confidence. We just outgrew it, right? So if you ever felt that confidence required you to prove something, then I think this episode and this conversation will help you reframe that a little bit, right? So a lot of what we call or know as confidence is sometimes what we see in the performance world, right? In the word performance itself, I think we think, oh, you're confident. I see you doing something. You look confident. I see you dressing confidently, or I see you carry your way a certain way. You sound confident. You appear confident. And so you're appearing. That's a performance. So I think we think, oh, that's what confidence looks like. So therefore, that's what confidence is. And especially in business and leadership, you're taught to show up certainty, show up with, I know what's happening, or I know what I'm doing, or I have all the answers, even though we know as human beings, we don't. And if you're in a leadership role, I know for a fact you are shaking your head up and down that you, just because you have a leadership role does not mean you have all the answers, right? So show certainty even when you don't think of it, or you doubt yourself, right? And then we think that because we're performing, we think that confidence looks like keep going even when everything else is off. If everything's falling apart, you show up and perform, and you show up and appear confident. And that performing in that strength in the way you carry yourself, the way you might be dressed, the way you speak, the way you carry the tone of your voice, the way that just the whole way, your whole demeanor, instead of living it, right? You're performing that strength instead of living it. So you are putting on the airs of confidence, but maybe you're really not. And that performance can be exhausting. Having to show up not authentic can be exhausting. Having to show up not confident, but acting like you have confidence is exhausting. And the longer you keep showing up and trying to perform, the more disconnect you become from your true self. You're getting further and further away from your authentic self and being true to who you are, right? So confidence comes from that self-trust, right? So the shift today to what I want you in this episode to really think about is that confidence isn't built by doing more. It's built by trusting yourself more. And when you trust yourself more, you will start to reconnect and gain your confidence. Remember when you were a little kid? I know I use this example a lot, so apologies if you've heard it before. But, we used to go out and get on our bike and had training wheels on it. We just got on our bike. We had those little, handlebars with the little, you know, ribbons hanging off it, and we just got on and we just went rolling along like nothing, and we slipped off a little bit, we got back on, then we took the training wheels off, and you had the parents that were sitting there fearful as all get out. Your dad or your mom had the back of your seat running behind you. They probably fell down, but running behind you, and then they let you go, and you just kept pedaling, and you fell over and you scraped your knees, and you might have been bleeding. And I would think that 90% of you got back up and said, wow, that was fun. I'm going to do it again. So every time you did something, you got more confident. And then we got older and we got afraid of breaking those bones and scraping our knees, or we got afraid of what somebody would think if we fell down. Would somebody laugh at us? Would they think that we are not worthy of something? Would it look like we were not successful if we stumbled? So our confidence just kept getting pushed further and further down in our toolbox, in our mind, in our body. We just stopped believing in ourselves. Instead of saying, man, I'm grateful for this today, it's what else can go wrong, or why me, right? That confidence, we just lost that confidence. The older we got, we lost it. We were afraid to take the risk, sometimes for good reason, but we were afraid to just try something. We doubted ourselves more than we believed in ourselves. And if you're an entrepreneur and you started a business, I challenge you to go back and think, hey, and you didn't think about how hard it was going to be. You just knew you could do it. And you knew, you might have thought, okay, I'll never get out of this 9 to 5 if I don't start my own business. So I'm going to start my own business. And you just went for it. You were confident that you were going to get out of your 9 to 5 and you went for it. I could put that scenario in so many things. I could put that on the athlete that, played hockey and played on the ponds and finally got seen by somebody. And if he wouldn't have took the risk to say, yes, I'm going to show up and come to the team, or if he wouldn't have just kept playing and you didn't believe that you were worth being a hockey player, you wouldn't have shown up to be a hockey player. I mean, and even when you get hurt and you get injured, these athletes, they turn around and they rehab and they get right back out there because that's what they do. That's their passion. That's their purpose. That's how they make their money. We all know that. But it's that drive to get back up. So we lose that confidence along the way, the older that we get. And the only way we get it back is small tasks that give us small wins. That's why you want to celebrate all your wins, small ones especially. You're going to learn more from taking a loss than you are from a win. But when you get that small win, you can watch your confidence get higher and grow. So confidence isn't built by doing more. It's built by trusting yourself more to try something. The more you do something, the more you believe you can do something, that confidence is going to grow. But you build that confidence by trusting in yourself more. Quiet confidence grows when you stop explaining your choices, when you stop chasing validation, when you stop showing up as who you think you should be because somebody else thinks that. You stop waiting for somebody to say, oh my gosh, I saw you. That was great. You stop waiting for somebody to say, man, that's a great idea. Instead, you listen to somebody, you put more power into somebody saying to you, well, that'll never work. You'll never be successful. And you let that take over instead of believing, you know what? I am going to make this work. I am going to be successful and I'm going to try. You give more power to the negative of somebody else telling you something than you do to the self-belief and the confidence you know you have to do something. So instead, you show up as you actually are, not perfect, not loud, but honest. And that kind of confidence doesn't need approval because it's rooted intentionally and internally. That kind of approval is deep down inside. Because if you show up as you truly are, knowing you're not perfect, knowing that there's risk, and that you might fall down and not succeed, but you tried. You had the confidence to take that first step. You believed in your abilities to make something out of what it is that you were trying to do. So there's something that I see in coaching clients, and I just see this in people in general. And if I'm on the speaking circuit, I can see it from some speakers. I see some speakers that are, oh my gosh, they're just more confident on stage. They just go with the flow. They have everybody laughing, and they just own who they are, and they're confident. They're not afraid of speaking. But then there's also some speakers who I watch, especially when I'm emceeing and I'm getting ready to introduce them, I watch them pace in the back. I watch them talk to themselves. I watch them get really nervous. I watch them almost trip going up those stairs because the nerves are taking them. That's a different kind of confidence, but they still get up there and do it. They're going with they know they're going to make an impact, but they're still scared. But you know what? They're showing up. So I see this, and I think we see that with leaders as well. People think confidence comes from having the perfect message, having all the answers, and never feeling unsure of themselves or self-doubt. But the most confident people are the ones that aren't performing certainty, that aren't performing every day, that aren't performing with that that attitude of nothing's going to go wrong, or I'm better than you. That most confident people don't do those things, right? They're grounded in self-trust. Now, I'm sure you might know some people, and I'm sure you might met some people, again, conceit over confidence, that think they're the be all end all. They're they think they're the greatest thing since sliced bread, right? Man, am I dating myself in this episode with my phrases? But as I just talk, because I just have these conversations with you, I just have a few bullet point notes that I look at. I don't have a full script, so I just talk, and I wait for your impact and your replies when you come back to me in text, or you send me a message, or you send me a voicemail. That's how the conversation grows. And over on Substack, if you go over and follow us over there, we have a chat, so you can join us over there. I've just opened up the paid community, kind of like it's you pay a couple bucks a month, but we're growing over there, right? That's how we're growing, and we're sharing, because I want you to get this grounded in self-trust. So I'm sure you know somebody who thinks that they're all that, but that's conceit. And I don't know that that's confidence. It's probably confidence in a different version of what I want to share, because I know people like that too, right? But the people that are most confident that I know are grounded in their self-trust. They pause and they listen, and they don't rush to fill a space. They don't need to convince a room that they're there. They don't have to announce their arrival. They just show up. And I think you probably know those people, the people that just show up and they brighten up a room because of who they are authentically, and they come in with a smile, or they come in with, how can I help you? They come out with their, hi, nice to meet you. That's confidence. And deep down inside, they're probably scared to death of networking or coming into a room, but they come off truly themselves, a little nervous to be there, but they're still making the effort. They're confident that they want to be in the room, and they want to meet those in the room, and they know that they're in that room to meet others and to grow. And when you stop performing confidence, and when you stop coming from that place of conceit, and you stop saying, oh my gosh, I'm the be all end all, something interesting will happen. When you stop trying to be somebody who you are not, people will feel you. Not because you're louder, or not because you're here and you're present, because they see the real authentic self. They see who you are. They see that confidence. Because you being authentic really is part of your being confident. They do go hand in hand. Quiet confidence is usually almost always a sign of alignment, right? We want to align ourselves. We believe in ourselves. We believe in our core values. We know how we want to make an impact, and we know what we want to do, and we're confident that we're moving in a direction that's going to align with us, right? Because when you're aligned and you carry that confidence of self-trust, your words don't fight your energy. You don't have to go, oh my gosh, I want to get up. You don't have to get inspired or enthusiastic, because you have that confidence. You're showing up as yourself, and you're excited to be there. You're not fighting a different type of energy. Your actions don't contradict your values. You're able to say, this is who I am. I'm showing up as I am. This is me. It's not contradicting something that doesn't even go with something you show online. I had somebody say to me once, when I was walking through a conference hallway, hey, Bobbi, I just went to your session, and you're exactly who you are on stage, as you are in your podcast, and as you are in other webinars, and as you're on social media. I don't do fancy music in this podcast. I don't have an intro. I don't have an exit. I don't have somebody introducing me. Same on social media. I don't follow a grid. I don't follow all these rules. I just post something that I like. And for somebody like me who learn differently, dealing with the grammar and the spelling, I do all my voice to text, and that doesn't always work in Canva or when I'm trying to make something. So I'm very cautious, because it's been pointed out to me. It's been pointed out to me that my grammar is not correct, and that I speak backwards sometimes. I hear these things, and they're said to my face, and I'm used to that, right? Because I'm confident that I'm always showing up my authentic self, and that's who I am. I'm not going to hide that. I'm not going to hide a stumble. I apologize if I spelled something wrong, but that's just what happens. I'm not looking for perfection. I'm looking to share something that I think bring value or a lived experience that can help you move forward or that can help you be seen, and to remind you that I believe in you even if you don't believe in yourself, and how can I get you to start believing yourself? How can I get you? How can I show you? Where can I show you? How can I help guide you and empower you to be that best version of yourself, to see that good things are going to happen, that you're fabulous exactly the way that you are? So I don't have these airs. So the person says to me, you're exactly who you are. No, I am. I'm just, what you see is what you get. And I'm not going to apologize for not having a big social media presence. I don't believe, as we talked earlier about building an empire, you follow me, you don't, you don't. I have a hard time even going on social media, but I do know that that's part of the role. I do know that that's part of business. I do know that that is a content strategy, even though my content strategy is not rigid or follow this. It's pretty much a, hey, throw this on the Instagram and see if somebody likes it. Right. But that's authentically me. And I'm confident in what I know how to do, the way I know how to do it. Right. So that's where my alignment shows up so that I'm not performing. And I know that you probably feel that way too, that your words sometimes, aren't fighting your energy, and that your pace matches your truth, and that you believe in your values and you just show up. And the more you sit with that and give yourself permission to be authentic, like in the last episode versus this episode, giving yourself permission to find that confidence again, you're going to be able to find that alignment and the confidence will flow naturally. You won't have to hype yourself up all the time, even though I don't think there's anything wrong with looking in the mirror and reminding yourself how fabulous you are. You don't have to push past discomfort, but getting out of your comfort zone, there's a lesson to be learned there, my friends. I just want you to show up, and I want others to see who you are and what you have to offer and the value that you bring to having a conversation with you. Not always to sell something, but just to, again, to be the person that leaves a room or leaves a group or leaves people a little bit better off because your paths crossed. And better off is what I mean from that is that they find value in themselves, not in something that you did, but just because you took the time to show up and be there, that they feel better about themselves, right? And that you can stop pretending. Stop pretending to be something that you don't have. That to me is full confidence, that you're not pretending. That to me is a really strong definition of confidence. You simply trust yourself enough to stand where you are and be proud of it. So again, some invitations for you to carry with you today. Where are you performing confidence instead of trusting yourself? Write them down. Think them out loud. Talk them right now. Hit pause and answer, right? Where are you performing confidence instead of trusting yourself? What would shift if you stopped trying to prove that you belong everywhere or anywhere? What would shift? What would shift if you stopped trying to prove that you belong? And what would quiet confidence look like in your life or in your work right now? You don't need to become more confident. Think about that. You just need to stop performing. You need to reconnect with what you know how to do and believing that whatever you set your mind to will work out. It may not be a big success and it may fail, but maybe that's what it was supposed to do. Maybe that's the lesson that was going to work, but you're never going to know if you're not confident to get back on that bike and try again. You build your confidence. You build your confidence when you get in alignment, but your confidence will grow when you start trusting yourself. I know the season I'm in reminds me all the time about being confident to continue this podcast. Am I confident enough to get on stage exactly as I am? I believe in myself enough to know that if I get on stage or I talk here and I stutter, I'm going to get some grace. I might get some heckles or some laughed at or some, you shouldn't be speaking, you shouldn't be a speaker, you shouldn't even do a podcast. But I'm okay with that because I showed up authentically myself. I'm confident in my abilities to want to share where I feel I'm being called to share. So confidence doesn't come from doing more or showing more or pushing harder or louder. It comes when you are aligned, and it comes from honesty. It comes from trusting yourself enough to believe in yourself to take the steps, the first step, the second step, the 100th step, to never give up. And if you believe in yourself and you know you at the end of a journey or you're ready to close a chapter, do that confidently. Know that you've given everything the best version of yourself. You gave it all your blood, sweat, and tears. Be confident to know when to move on. Be confident enough when to stand still. Be confident enough to take the next step, to open the next door. Believing yourself authentically leads to so much confidence. Being aligned and knowing who you are will bring about so much confidence. Because quiet confidence doesn't demand attention, but it does demand your respect. Thanks for choosing confidence that's rooted and not rushed. Thanks you for investing in your time in this episode, in this permission series. Let me know what you think. I'm available email, text, send me a voicemail. You know how to do that. It's all right here where you're getting this information. And I'll drop some things in show notes to remind you to join us on Substack. But I'm here. We're here to share. Keep this conversation going. I believe in you, my friends. I'm confident that you will reconnect with your confidence. And that if you just look really deep down inside, you never really lost it. You just got to brush it off, clean off the dust. Because alignment, confidence, mindset, all part of what building what matters most. And only you can define what that most and what matters is, my friends. Till next time.